Good morning and welcome to part 2 of the 9th episode of our podcast,
where we drink tea and navigate the balance between school and personal life.
I'm Sophia Safe.
And I'm Sophia Curry.
And this is Sip and Spill. Welcome to our second Tea Time Talk section.
Today we have two very special guests joining us today. They are current guidance counselors and someone we have begun to foster a student-teacher relationship with, not to mention people who a lot of students appreciate. Let's start with introductions. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, and thank you for having me on your podcast. I'm Mrs. McGarr. I'm one of the high school counselors here. I've been here, I think this is my 22nd year. Prior to being at Parkland, I worked at Kids Peace in a residential treatment program. My undergraduate degree is in psychology, master's degree is in secondary school counseling. So after Kids Peace, I got my master's and came here, and I've been at the high school ever since. Some of my additional duties, well, initially when I started, I was a JV softball coach here at the high school for a few years, and then I gave that piece up. I helped with the 8th grade transition activities for several years. Stopped doing that a couple years ago, but I am the PSAT coordinator, and I work with the National Merit Scholarship Program for the commended students and finalists, and just a variety of other duties that we have here.
Great, thank you for joining us. And our second guest.
Hi, my name is Mr. Eric Roberts. I am also a school counselor here at Parkland High School. I am currently department chair. I go way back in education to 1993. I taught high school English out in Pittsburgh. And after that, I was a school counselor at Freedom High School for a year. Came to Parkland High School in the fall of 1996 as a school counselor. I'm also a certified school psychologist, so I spent about 10 years as an administrator, combining the counseling degree and the school psych degree here at Parkland, and then went back into school counseling probably around 2012, and I've been ever since, and I have over 30 years in public education. Like Mrs. McGarr, I think I've done everything here from being a National Honor Society advisor to a class advisor, the class of 2001, yes, I'm that old, to AP testing, a little bit of everything. So I have about 3 years left before retirement.
Great. So today we want to ask you a little bit about how to make a student-teacher relationship. So let's start off with our first question.
So what can students do to build trust with their guidance counselor and feel comfortable opening up about their concerns?
I mean, honestly, I think the more you see and talk with your counselor, the easier that becomes, right? So that communication, whether that's email or Schoology messages or stopping in and just chatting with us about anything that comes along. I think we try to start that relationship right at the beginning of students' freshman year, trying to see our 9th graders within the first couple months of school, so they know who we are, where we are, and how to reach out to us. So I just think the more you see us, the easier that becomes.
Definitely. And I think me personally, I started to build a stronger relationship with you when I thought, I was like, oh, I want to know more about taking the college path and where to go. And I listened to a lot of my friends like, oh yeah, I was talking to my guidance counselor, and I was like, I don't talk to mine as much as I probably should or would like to. And I was like, oh, well, let me take the step by sending like an email to talk about more. And I think that's a good step to opening it up. Do you want to move on to the second one?
Sure. So how can students communicate effectively with their guidance counselor about their goals, struggles, and needs?
I think one of the best times to do that, a lot of times freshmen are hesitant to talk to their counselors that transition year and pretty meek and shy, but I think you can really start getting into it, or at least we try to during the course registration process. Because when we're meeting freshmen at the beginning of the year, they're still eyes wide open, like, oh my gosh, who are you? Do I really have to talk to you? But once we get into course registration, talking about the following year's courses and career paths and looking at the classes they're taking, that's when things really start to kick off. And that's when students, I think, really start to feel comfortable with us. And then, we'll usually end those meetings saying, hey, any other questions, feel free to stop by anytime. We try to make ourselves readily available for students. We try to, be out in the halls at different activities, really to show that, hey, we're the good guys here. We're here to help you. We're the student advocates. We want to have good relationships with our students, and a lot of students do take advantage of that, but some students, don't feel the need. And there are times where we really don't really get to know students until their senior year, when the college process is really starting for them. I mean, it should start a lot earlier, but when you have to go through college applications and have a plethora of questions about that, that's when we really, really get to know students. And then a lot of times I wish I would have done this sooner with you. I wish I'd have, really connected sooner rather than just my senior year. So it has to happen organically. I mean, we can't really force relationships. I mean, again, we put ourselves out there. I know at the beginning of each year, they usually have us on television, kind of an intro to the counselors. The first freshman meeting, we're all down getting introduced to, remember your freshman year in the auditorium, like your first day of school. All the counselors were introduced. I have a little spiel there where I talk. So we try our best to say, hey, we're here if you need us. And some students take advantage, others don't.
I feel like taking advantage is a really good thing to do. I talked to Ms. McGarr about a little more than just courses, and honestly, it really does help getting in contact with your guidance counselors.
Oh, really? What do you talk about? I don't know what to talk about.
Just like school problems, really. I try to keep it like for the most part, names, lists, stuff like that. But it helps to get another outside perspective from someone who's objective, and not just only on your side or only on the other side.
Well, how did she approach you about that? Because I know I've talked to my friends and they've done that, but I was like, I don't know how you just like approach someone that you don't really know about stuff like that, especially like a school professional.
Yeah, so I'm trying to remember. Did you send me a message?
I did.
I think you
email.
did. Yeah, so she sent an email and asked if we could meet to talk about, and I don't think you were specific in the message. And I said, sure, so we picked a time and set it up, and she came in, and then I just kind of let her tell me at her pace and, comfort level of what was going on. And, I think initially the conversations might start out a little generic, and as students are kind of testing the waters to see what they can and can't say and how we're going to react maybe. But I think as they come to know that we're there to listen and be objective and supportive and non-judgmental and try to help them figure out what the best solution is for them, that I think that helps build the comfort too.
Ultimately, our role, we are student advocates. We're here for you. We're here to advocate for you in all aspects of high school. So.
Interesting. Yeah, I've always wondered, how far, down the personal route can you, not explain, but can you talk about? Because I know some of my friends are like, oh yeah, I have family issues at home, and I was talking to my guidance counselor about this, and I was like, you were? It's like
we get pretty deep. We get pretty deep in the rabbit hole sometimes, like extremely deep. And again, we're a confidential source, but there are times when we have to break confidentiality when we're worried that a student's going to hurt him or herself or others. But for the most part, it's a conversation that is confidential, and I think there's that comfort level. Like Mrs. McGarr said, we're there to listen to you. We're not there to judge, and we're going to do that. We're going to listen, and we're going to give you our best advice on things based on the experience in our career. And Mrs. McGarr and I have a lot of years in here. So we're going to do our best to, lead you in the right direction, whether that be academically, socially, emotionally.
How similar do you think that is? Or what are the similarities and differences between talking with your guidance counselor versus therapy and going to a licensed mental health professional?
Well, I think one of the main things is if you go to a psychologist, psychiatrist, therapist, you're on the clock. You have 45 minutes to an hour. And that's it, okay? I mean, sometimes in school, if you're coming down to a study hall, you have to get to another class. You may only have 20 or 30 minutes. I mean, we're there for however long you need us. The therapist or a outside counselor, that's maybe once every 2 weeks, once a month, and you have a limited time. You have, I think, more access to us on a daily basis. Now, we may not get into the extreme details that they do there. Remember, we have, Mrs. McGarr has more students than I do, but let's say Mrs. McGarr has about 370 students on her caseload. I have about 340, and it's just one of us, so that's a lot to manage. And of that, number, there may be 10 to 15% that we do see on a regular basis that truly need to connect with us often.
Yeah, so we're not therapists, right?
Yeah.
To answer that piece, I guess, but we do quite a bit of that in the listening piece, right? But we're, if there is a student who probably needs the therapy and that extra piece, then we're a good source to help connect that student with the support that they need, right, outside of school. If they do need that weekly counseling or therapy session or every other weekly, therapy session, that's something that we can help facilitate. And then I think we're supporters of that as well, right? So they might be doing the therapy outside, but then they're also checking in with us on a regular basis too. So we're kind of a support piece to that, if that makes sense.
And oftentimes students and parents will sign an agreement where we're able to talk with the therapist, and that helps a lot too, that we can kind of bounce things off each other and what's working, and they may have some suggestions for school to help students, and we may have some suggestions for them.
So if a student were to want to contact you about this, what ways can students take initiative to seek help from their guidance counselor when they need it? So we talked about me emailing you. What are some other ways that a student might be able to get in contact with you guys?
Yeah, so that's key. The email, the Schoology. You can stop in the guidance office and ask our office staff, is Mrs. McGarr and Mr. Roberts available to see me? If we're not, then there are 9 or 10 other counselors available. There's also 3 school psychologists, right? There's always somebody for a student to talk to, okay? So if it's an emergency situation that they really need to talk to somebody right then, they're upset, they're emotional, they will find somebody for you to talk to. So, just walking in the door, it's open door here. Come in and ask, and if we are available, we'll see you right then and talk through it like that. Sometimes students, I think, might go through like a teacher, like, hey, I was talking to so-and-so after class, they were really upset, can you follow up with them or check in? And maybe it's because they wanted to see us too, but just didn't have the strength to reach out and take that step, right? So then we can follow up on that and then initiate that conversation, and sometimes that leads to, an improved relationship and they feel more comfortable with coming in the guidance office after that or reaching out.
How difficult do you think that is, just like to get more in depth with the amount of kids that we have in our school? Because, for context, we have like 3,300 kids?
Almost 3,300.
Almost
It's extremely
3,300?
challenging. Because
Yeah.
again, with that many students with different levels of need, and again, there's some McGarr, again, say 370 students. Do the math on that. And students going through a regular school day here, and then if they maybe have that one free period and want to stop down during lunch, but it could be a lot of students. And yeah, it's at public high school. That's the thing. It's we're usually in any counseling office in the United States, high schools are usually understaffed. So it does present challenges.
For sure. And unfortunately, that's not the only task, right? So all of us would prefer to talk with students all day long, right, and support them and do that. But then with any job, there's the other tasks, right, that have to take place, that take some time. So it's just trying to balance all of that, which obviously the students are the priority. But I think we'd all agree we don't have enough time in the day to spend with you guys as much as we'd like.
Even today, for example, we currently have AP testing going on, so we're proctoring for our AP exams. We're especially monitoring our seniors right now because, obviously there are some seniors in jeopardy of not graduating due to poor academics. So we're monitoring that. We're answering, I think when I first started at Parkland, email didn't exist, and get phone messages. Now that emails are, it's
They
non-stop
don't understand
emails.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know.
They're like,
I know.
email doesn't exist?
Yeah, so there was a time when literally
There was a
if
time.
they wanted to reach us, they had to call and a receptionist answered and then took a message for us.
Yeah.
So things changed, I think, early 2000s, fourth email here. And now it's just, I would say an average, we can get 50 to 70 emails a day. So really keeping up with those emails. And Parkland has a policy, hey, you have 24 hours to get back to a parent or a student. And then I'd say we get about 10 to 15 phone calls a day. I'm probably being conservative on that, more than that. And then again, students that are like stopping in, if there's a suspension hearing, we're at those hearings. So there's just a lot going on. And I know Ms. McGarr's right. Like, I wish I could just spend the day talking to students, and I would love that, but it's just not a reality more because of the demands of the job and education in general.
But regardless, the students obviously are the number one priority, right? So if the crisis arises, right, the other stuff takes a back seat, and we'll find someone to manage that crisis or cover whatever, lunch duty or the AP
Yeah, I forgot about the
testing or
cafeteria
something.
thing.
Yeah, somebody who can cover that for us, or maybe we miss it because there's a student that we need to talk to, and that sort of thing. So students are the priority. So I hope they always feel like they can come in, and then we will find the time or someone to meet
absolutely.
with them.
Okay. So
Go ahead.
okay. So we touched on this a little bit, but specifically, what kinds of personal issues can students discuss with their guidance counselors, and how can they provide support? We did touch a little bit on this, but getting into the specifics, what are like the do's and don'ts of what to talk about with your guidance counselor, if there are any don'ts?
I don't think there are any.
Everything's
there are
fair
no don'ts.
game,
Yeah, everything.
but like Mr. Roberts said earlier, there are certain things that we are mandated reporters, right? So there's certain things if students share that there's something that's a safety concern for that student or someone else, then we have to report that. So that's something that it's important for students to know coming in. I wouldn't want that to be a barrier to sharing it, but just knowing that 99% of what they talk about is confidential, but there is a piece that we might have to share with that. But I think I say that, I think I've heard it all, and then I hear something new. So I think in our time, students have talked about, gosh, everything. I just heard something different the other day, which I won't say on here, but anyway, I'm like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. So
And things sort of trend sometimes. I mean, when COVID hit, and it was kind of like the lockdown, when students started coming back to school, we dealt with a lot of anxiety, depression, isolation issues, and honestly, it's been 5 years, and that has continued.
Yes, I mean, there's self-injurious behavior, there's abuse situations, there's family issues you talked about, that's pretty common. Lots of relationship issues, whether it's friends, whether it's boyfriends, girlfriends.
Drug and alcohol issues, and that's always changing too. I mean, when I first started, vaping didn't exist. That wasn't a thing, That's like relatively new. Unscaping and fentanyl, that's kind of new. So we're lifelong learners as counselors. Like our profession is always changing in things we deal with. So then we always have to. I think the district does a nice job of training us on things like it could be school law, anxiety, depression. The latest in drug and alcohol issues, and I think we do a good job of keeping up on that on our own. Yeah. And then camera phones, TikTok, things like that, cyberbullying. So our profession is constantly changing.
Yeah, I always love asking teachers, although sometimes they can't say, but I'm like, teachers always have an extensive amount of experience, and I'm like, what's the craziest thing you've ever heard leave a student's mouth? Because I'm like, they see a lot of students on a daily basis, and it evolves in over 20 years. They can have over 1,000 kids that they've seen and met, and I was like, there's gotta be some wild thing that's come out of someone's mouth. So what do you do when something happens that you're like, oh my, I've never heard that before? How do you handle that?
I mean, it depends how it comes across and who the student is. Depending on the student, I might say, well, I've never heard of that before. Depending how serious the issue is, right? So sometimes humor is a good thing in there, or it leads them to tell me more about it. So a lot of things you have to think in your head and keep a straight face about, right? So
that's so true. I mean, there are things that I wanted to be like, wait, what? But I'm just calmly, okay, all right, continue. And you kind of have to have that poker face because, there are definitely, and there are trends in society where it's like, what the heck is going on here? But again, we're non-judgmental. We're here to listen. And it's funny, we also rely on students sometimes for things it's nice that I have a daughter who's a sophomore at home. Mrs. McGarr has 2 Parkland graduates. One just graduated and one's a little bit older. That it's good to, hey, Addison, what does this mean? What is this word? What is this phrase? Or I can call students down that I've known very well. All right, what's this mean? I talked about that previous podcast I was on, and literally I spent a half hour. Okay, here's what this means. Here's what this means. And I'm like, this is so helpful. And even your podcast is Tea Talk. I remember when spilling the tea was big.
Yes,
So
really.
we're not here to spill the tea on your Tea Talk. But we're always learning from you guys, which is helpful.
I mean, me and Sophia can attest to that because you all are gonna flame us for this and be like, you are not old, but we now feel old because there's the following generation after us has now ended, and they're constantly coming out with new words. And someone was walking in the hall, and I was like, what? And I was like, where did that come
brothers.
from?
Hers is 1 year younger than mine.
Yeah.
But half the time we don't know what they're talking about.
like they're walking around like talking about Italian brain rot, and I was like,
Okay.
oh, you've never heard like tung 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 sahur, and I was like, wait, I was like,
See,
what
welcome
are
to our
these
world.
characters? And they're like, oh, it's the Riz and like the I don't even know.
Don't know.
And they come up with all these words, and I was like, oh my god, I have no idea what that is. I was
So,
like, this must
I
be how my parents
remember
feel.
what the thing that drives me, and it's driven me crazy, but then I reminded myself I probably drove the adults in my life crazy, because right now the big thing, yo, bro this, bro that. Well, then I'm thinking, man, it actually took my mother to say, well, when you were in high school, it was dude. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I said, but that's so much cooler than bro. And she's like, oh my gosh. So but there are also words that make a comeback, because there were a couple times when the student said something like, oh, that was whack. I'm like, I know that. That's the 80s. And I get all excited. Or clothing making, like, somehow mom jeans are in. I'm like, what the heck is that? So there are things that make a comeback that we're like, wow, we're really old. Do you remember that from when we were in like high school or college?
Oh, I know. Bro has evolved to bruh.
No.
Bruh, broski.
It just gets like shortened.
But we're just hearing my daughter say it, like, yo, bro. I'm like, oh my gosh, stop this.
Yeah, my mom.
Remember the name of our 5th grade basketball team?
Me and Sophia were on a basketball team, and we did not have a hand in this at all.
Not at
but
all.
they named it the Gucci Broskitos, and I was like, I remember when the word Gucci was huge, and they were like, oh, that's so Gucci, and I was like, what?
That was only a couple of years ago.
Was it actually?
Yes.
Oh,
But I'll tell you
I
what,
thought that
Mrs. McGarr and she, because we were out in the hallway for this, one of our favorite days was, I think it was last fall, one of the theme days was Dressed Like a Student.
Oh.
It was the best. I mean, the Crocs and socks, students would come up to me, I'd have the AirPods in, like, huh? What? It was my favorite day ever, because I spent the entire day doing that.
That was a good one.
It was so comfortable to dress.
It was.
Oh my!
That theme
I
day,
can't
yeah.
even imagine.
I'll have to show you that picture at some point. That's fun. Like our whole office was out in like total, and like, yo, bro, and that was great.
Oh my! I can't picture adults like saying bro.
No.
My mom's always like, I'm not your bro, and I'm like, it's like a filler word. Like we're not even referring to you as bro. It's just like bro. Oh my gosh, and I don't even know. It's like the word like, where we say
Yeah, we say like
all
all
the
the
time, and all those words. I think it's really interesting to see like the evolution. I think you guys can attest to that. And in terms of like social media like evolving, like what have you seen change between like student relationships with their teachers and themselves?
It's funny. I remember, gosh, back we had an English teacher here, and he's probably our first teacher who was on Facebook, and our principal at the time was like, "You can't do that. That's blah blah." And now with the exception of me, the only thing I have is Twitter or X. But everyone else seems that like it's commonplace now.
Yeah, I mean, I have that, but I don't friend any. So there's that boundary, right? So obviously not current students, but then you see some that have like graduated students. Like, where is that line? Like, can we now be Facebook friends? Like, it still feels weird to me. But like Mr. Roberts said, both of my kids graduated from here, so I'm friends with their parents and the students. So that's a strange boundary as well, right? Because they've been involved in my kids' lives all this time. So, but it is interesting to at least you can see some of the things, but then I realize I can't see anything, right? Because you all have these other accounts, right? On Instagram. Like, I follow my kids' main accounts probably, but they probably have some ghost account or whatever it's called over here. See, I don't even know what I'm talking about. But then Snapchat is everything, right? What's the thing? Is Snapchat the main thing now?
I think yes. Neither of us have-
Snapchat and Instagram. I don't have any
Neither of us
social
have.
media.
Is Facebook
Okay.
like done for the younger generation?
Facebook is
Facebook
old
is
people.
out.
That's us or me, right?
It's TikTok,
And that's kinda
Instagram, and
fading.
Snapchat.
Yeah, which
and
we don't have.
Oh, yeah.
any
I don't
of
have
those.
any of that.
TikTok and
listen,
Snapchat.
I was downstairs covering a basketball game as a game manager. This is a freshman game. And I'm just looking around, and there are like, let's say 6 cheerleaders doing this little thing in a phone. I don't know what is going on here. So I just never saw, and even sometimes Addison's in the car in the back doing like I'm like, what is going on here?
There's also Reels, Mr. Roberts.
I have no idea what that is.
It's
They're
basically
like little
TikTok.
videos, yes.
It's
But on
basically
Instagram
TikTok.
and
Oh my gosh.
Facebook.
And it was funny, I was just talking to Dr. Son at Springhouse this morning, and he's like, I had to put some letter out to parents about the newest TikTok challenge, something about pencils going in socket. I'm like, wait, you had to do what? So yes, my daughter was outside the other day, and I have a couple of her friends over, and they were like dumping ice on her ice water. I'm like, the ice bucket challenge.
Come back around.
Yeah, she's like, what do you mean?
Oh, but it's not like for ALS.
Right.
Now it's just for whatever. Like,
so that's what I said. I said, for ALS, and they're like, wait, for what?
I
I'm
remember
like,
that.
It's
I
back.
did the ice bucket
I
challenge.
did too.
I was 3. I was very little. I was like 3 or 4. But they were like, oh yeah, the ice bucket challenge.
Back.
And now there's all these other like nominations.
Yeah.
Like nominate the person with, and I was like, wait, this is going too far. But I remember way back when, to touch on like Dr. Son having to send out an email. I remember, was it 7th or 8th grade, they sent out an email about devious licks.
Oh no.
Because they were
it was
ripping sinks and like they were trashing the bathrooms. Like they would like flip the trash can over and like scatter all the paper towels.
Oh, that
or
was a
make
challenge,
drawings
wasn't
on
it,
the
or
wall.
something?
Yeah, it's
Oh, that was a
it's
challenge?
called it's called a devious lick.
And
And
you
I was
record
like,
yourself vandalizing
Yes.
things.
and like
I do remember
someone
that.
like they ripped a sink off the
Yes,
wall.
they like fully
I think
the
they did
sink
that
was
here,
out.
too.
They did.
I was like, how do you manage to rip a sink off the wall?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
And I just remember, I was like, I'm like, what did you guys do when you were younger that was like equivalent to this? I'm like, there cannot be something that's equivalent to like ripping a sink off a wall and
no.
posting it.
Because like, here's the thing. Back when, I remember there was one senior skip day, usually the Friday before Memorial Day. Now it seems like every month or every 2 weeks.
I know.
Senior skip. I'm like, what? And then like parents will call, well, Mr. Roberts, it's National Senior Skip Day. I'm like, no, it's not. That doesn't exist. So, but honestly, when we were younger in high school, there were no cell phones or rotary phones. Any phone call we had to make was on a home phone where everyone can listen. So it was just so different, and it took us so long to adjust to the generation when.
Yes. Or
But
you pass notes, handwritten notes. But I think social
Fold it up
media
all
has
bunch.
made high school harder for high school
Oh, yeah.
students,
Oh, gosh.
for sure. I mean, you can't get away from a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Or a rumor
Very well
or something.
said.
So that's super challenging, and that's a lot of what we end up talking with the students about, and how to navigate that and block them, or whatever. Easier said than done, right? Because that's kind of your lifeline with well, not yours. You guys don't have that, which is smart.
Yeah.
See, you probably don't have that extra stress and drama there, but it's also a distorted perception of everybody's lives too. So trying to, right? We don't post the bad stuff for the most part. So
it's
made it challenging.
I mean, even as like my daughter was pretty well adjusted and does pretty well, but like it still drives me crazy when she just the phone is always out. Like if you remind, hey, okay, and it's just. But then you see adults like that now.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to move the conversation a little bit back to academics.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do where was it? How can students work with their guidance counselor to create a plan for academic success and achieve their goals?
Yeah.
So I think like Mr. Roberts talked about earlier, like where that relationship really starts to build is at the course registration meeting in 9th grade, right? Where you're talking about your courses for that year and the grades and what you're looking to do and your projected goals and that sort of thing. And we try to talk about not just 10th grade, right? But where do you want to be by the time you're a senior? Because there's prerequisites, right, for different classes. And so you have to kind of plan it out that way. So I think those conversations are super important. So that starts there. And then a lot of times, like we'll meet for the scheduled course registration, and then we end up, sometimes we meet before that one, right? Some students will say, hey, I'm not sure, let's talk about it. And then we have the course registration meeting, and then they're thinking about it a little later, we meet again, and then, right? So it kind of depends on the student again, but I think that's where it starts, and that's kind of how it builds. And, we try to monitor grades as much as we can. We can't monitor every single student on a regular basis, so we rely on parents reaching out or teachers reaching out to let us know if there's a concern about anything, so we can kind of follow up with that and kind of shift. But I think at a minimum, that course registration meeting that we have every year with you guys is key for that planning, and then just kind of following up as you do different things and get involved in different activities and have different experiences, and maybe your goals change, or you start going to colleges with an older sibling or something and visiting and seeing what's there, and then coming back and asking some follow-up questions to help us guide.
I think sometimes our toughest job, and I know one of the toughest conversations I have to have is when I'm meeting with in January, it's 8th grade parent night, they're coming to 9th grade, and I have to talk with them about, okay, let's not try to everyone keep up with the Joneses here. They're, it's going to be, there's not too many students in this auditorium who are able to take every course at the honors or AP level. And oftentimes we get that students who are like, and there are students that can absolutely handle that, but many times students are, well, my friend's taking honors chem, and so I'm going to take it too. And some of our toughest conversations are when we sit down, okay, you want to take honors chemistry. Right now in GHP biology, you have a B-. It's not going to translate, or we're looking at their math. It's like sometimes that's tough because students are like, but I want to take this. I'm like, okay, but based on what I am seeing, it's going to be too much. And I know it's easy to say, I'm going to take all these classes, but how you're currently performing, many times I'll say to a student, let's revisit this at the end of the year. So I'm giving you now like a half year to really bring these grades up and show me what you can do. And sometimes that's a hard conversation to have with students and parents, or even students or parents that come down and say, okay, hey, seniors come in sometimes. I heard the schools I'm applying to, and let's say the application or that school, the criteria for admission I'll just go pick because I sit on an advisory board there. Okay, you're looking at a 3.8 minimum. And if you're going to submit your SAT scores, you're looking at 1280 or above. If I have a student that comes down with a 3.1 and a 1050, I'm going to be applying to Pitt. It's, again, those are hard conversations. Like, okay, and many times you go to the school's website, they'll have the criteria right there. Okay, here's your typical freshman class GPA, SAT scores. That's what they want. Here's where you fall. And, a lot of times it's a hard conversation.
Yeah, I mean, helping the students identify, their strengths and how that relates to their interests and building. And like Mr. Roberts said, not everyone needs to take all AP and honors classes, right? That's not required. Okay, and that conversation too of sometimes there's students that think, well, I'm going to take all AP and honors classes, even if I get a C or a D in it, I'm taking AP and honors classes, but that's not doing them any favors, right? So there's value in taking, the GHP or CP class or whatever and getting an A in that, right? And that's still in line with quality colleges and quality careers and all of that. And so having that perspective piece is super important because there is a lot of pressure, right, from peers and other parents are saying. And
I just having a daughter who is Asian. I know she says like many of her peers are like talking Mandarin and like here's what we're gonna take. What do you mean you have to take a final exam? Oh my gosh, she hears this and like, well, what the heck? But it's on the other end of things. We have students that are extremely bright. They're now just going to take CP class. I mean, you should take more. You can handle more. Challenge yourself. No, we're good. So sometimes we're on that other end saying, I really think you should challenge yourself because when you get to college, it's going to be a little harder. And so that is, again, those meetings. And so I think we all wish we'd have a half hour with each student. But sometimes if we get a class coming down, an English class, and there's 7 students in the class, do the math, whatever, 43-minute periods, they don't get here on time. And we have sometimes 5 to 6 minutes with a student. And that's when we'll encourage them, hey, let's continue this discussion. Let's talk more about it. Mm-hmm. Some students come in all set with a plan. Other students, I didn't even look at this stuff. And it's like, oh, jeez. Like, go out there and pick your electives, come back in.
Yeah. I did want to touch more into the topic that you were just previously discussing. For kids who, starting off with kids who are at UC are like extremely motivated and want to take like all the AP classes and like have such like big goals. Like I know personally for me, I want to become a pediatric surgeon, and I'm like, I've got my whole life, like since I was little, like my whole life planned, and everyone made fun of me for that. And how do you manage like the kids who come in who are extremely driven, want to take all those hard classes, and you're like, how do we make sure you can handle this versus the kids who don't really have any motivation, don't really know where they want to go in life? How do you kind of show both sides, like the options and where they can go?
You've been easy because you do extremely well in competitive courses. So it's easy to work with students like you because you are on track and, academically, socially, everything. But yeah, there are those students that they have a certain career track, and based on their academic performance, it's going to be tough to even enter a college in that particular major. So therein lies the challenge of finding something for, that student. And a lot of students come down, I want to be a PA, I want to be a surgeon. But then, okay, you have a 2.6 GPA, you're not getting the school, or engineering, you're not getting in the school for engineering with that grade point average. Let's look at different things. You can always go somewhere and transfer and do it, but again, I think that's one of the more challenging parts of our job. And we obviously want to get the parents on board with us, and it's not just a conversation that's going to happen in school. A lot of this has to happen at home but sometimes they're not getting that at home, certain students, and they're coming to us for the words of wisdom. So.
Yeah, so I think we see both ends of the spectrum and everything in between, right? So, that's part of trying to get to know each individual student and where their strengths and interests are. And you're right, some come in and have absolutely no idea what they want to do and no motivation. And sometimes that's hand in hand because they don't have a goal and don't know what they're working for, right? So if we can help them figure out some direction and a goal, then sometimes that leads to more motivation and better success in the classroom. So it just kind of depends on the student and just talking with them and meeting them where they're at, right? You can see like their 8th grade grades and how they performed and, have some information there, and then you just kind of see how they're doing throughout 9th grade and then 10th grade, and you get teacher feedback, right? Or at least the report cards, the comments and things. You can see some strengths and that sort of thing. And there's opportunities, right, to explore the technical school, right? So maybe they're more hands-on kind of person, and just trying to figure out what their strengths are and their interests, which some are easier to do and others not so much. There's some that, unfortunately will get to senior year and still don't quite have that direction yet. But then sometimes those students, they just need to get out of high school and then they're going to flourish, right? So high school is challenging for some students and just doesn't quite fit for a variety of reasons. But then you see them go on to do great things too. So everybody has their own path and it just looks different. So it's just trying to help them see that they don't need to fit into one particular path, right? Because their friends say so, or, I don't know, a family member says so.
Yeah, I like what you said, but there are plenty of students that are late bloomers, or some that just in high school it didn't click yet. And then I remember we inducted a girl into the Parkland Distinguished Wall of Honor last year, Lindsay Beagle. Pretty much a CD average in high school. She's now one of the leading biochemists in the country. And I remember introducing her at the ceremony because I'd emceed it, and she had a class her freshman year of college, a chemistry class, where it was just a passion. She's just like, from the professor to the content, I just fell in love with chemistry. Everything clicked. And sometimes that's, there aren't so many students that like by the age of 18 that most students don't know what they want to do. If they do know what they want to do, a lot of times it changes. I mean, right now, I think the last I saw, the average number of times a student changes his or her major in college is 3.7. So sometimes it's get out of high school thinking, here's what I want to do, and then there's maybe a class you take freshman year of college, like, whoa, this is wow, this has blown my mind. I want to know more about this course. Again, plenty of students that do leave high school and continue on their track, but I often tell students, even students that are struggling, do not let high school define you. This is such a small part of who you are, and I laugh. I was talking to a boy the other day, and there was like relationship things, and I'm like, remember, as guys, we're behind. We're emotionally, especially behind females by 2 or 3 years.
I tell my
So,
students the same thing about guys. So I'm just
so like I'll tell girls that it's like a senior girl. I'm like, listen, your boyfriend, even though he's a senior, he's really like a 9th or 10th grader, socially and emotionally. So you have to understand.
I think a lot of people need to hear that, especially the boys.
Yeah, I share that all the time. I was one of them. So these are the candid conversations. And a lot of times, like wow, really? I'm like, yes, really.
I think that's important. So obviously we've touched on a lot of aspects. So you guys do more than just, school resources and like, oh, here's your college path and here's that, but you can get to know kids on a personal level and help them with needs outside of just academics. So what advice would you give? I think we touched on this a little, to students on how to build a stronger relationship with your guidance counselors and get the most out of this support.
Yeah, so, don't be afraid of us. We are not the trouble office, okay? So,
You know how many times we call students that, am I in trouble?
They're like, what? Why'd you call me down? I'm like, sometimes it's because you asked to see me. So
I always say, when you come into this office, it's a good thing. When you go over there, good luck.
I say, this is not the trouble office. Like, this is, sometimes there's a concern, right, that's brought to our attention. But again, it's not the trouble office. It's to kind of talk through it and support them and work with that. So trying to dispel that piece is huge, right? So just know we are not scary people. We are here to help and support you and guide and advocate for you, like Mr. Roberts said earlier, being the advocate piece. So again, if they're not comfortable walking in here and asking to see us, use email, use Schoology. That's the easiest way to do that, to start, to initiate that. And maybe the first conversation is just, pretty vanilla about nothing, right? Oh, what are you up to? What have you been doing? What do you like? Are you involved in anything? And that's a lot of what the 9th grade conversations are like, but still, that's okay. Even if it's the second, third time, you're just kind of checking in and letting us know what's going on and building that up. And sometimes, we might have a funny story to share, and you kind of humor I like to use, and I know Mr. Roberts does as well. So sometimes that helps that connection, right? Finding something there. So it's just, the more we meet and talk, the better we get to know each other, the better the rapport can be, and the easier and more comfortable it is for you to walk in.
I think we try to make our offices look inviting. I mean, I have pictures up all over former students, college flags, my daughter. So they want to enter the office, like, oh, okay, look around a little bit. And sometimes I had a student who just didn't want to talk the other day. And I got to throw in my bag of tricks. I'm like, you look like you could use a Pop-Tart. I would love. I said, s'mores or strawberry.
Snacks
so
are always
literally,
good.
S'mores Pop-Tart opened up the whole. About 45 minutes. Boom! About 45 minutes of conversation. I'm like, thank you, S'mores Pop-Tart, because it just. Oh, like really? I'm like, yeah. So I took a few bites. Mr. Roberts. I'm like, boom. So.
Yeah, my friends always come in. They're like, Mr. Roberts has Pop-Tarts. I go, he does?
Yeah, I'm going broke because of that. Because word got out.
2-pack to 1?
What's that?
You give the whole 2-pack?
I'll give the whole 2-pack.
Yeah, but she's like, yeah, he has Pop-Tarts. And I was like, I haven't had a Pop-Tart in like
I've had to cut some
several
students
years.
off. Like, Emma Baum, if you're listening, you
Yep, that's the part
you
I'm
are
talking
cut
about.
off from Pop-Tarts.
Every day
You
she's
owe me
like,
about
"I gotta
$600.
Oh, she's always like, I have to get my Pop-Tart. I was like, you are going to give him a run for his money.
She has, and she's been cut off.
Yeah. So basically, you guys are here for a lot more than just, academics, and you do try to make your offices inviting and your presence inviting, and I think that's something that a lot of kids should know, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it. I know originally when I first walked in, I wasn't even entirely sure what you guys did or like what you were sanctioned to do. Coming from my household has 2 licensed therapists. So my mom's a psychologist and my dad's an LPC. But they were like, your guidance counselors aren't necessarily therapists. And I was like, oh, well then what exactly are they? And they're like, oh, well, they can help you with school, or they can do this, and they're a liaison, between you and your teachers. And I was like, oh, okay. But I still wasn't entirely sure until, I came down and I started learning more and started talking more. So I think it's great that, you're there for the students, and definitely I think kids shouldn't be scared to come down, and that it's good to know that you're there for support.
Absolutely. Okay, so that wraps up Tea Time Talks. Thank you so much for joining us today, Mrs. McGarr and Mr. Roberts. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
We enjoyed
you for
spilling the
having
tea
us.
on Tea Talks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to part 2 of this episode.
Don't forget to check out the other parts of this episode where we interview other pieces of your school authority.
We hope you enjoyed this episode on
Sip and Spill.